Hello and welcome to a brand new season of the News Desk. Yes, we're calling it something a little bit different, just to freshen things up for the new year. This is going to be season 4 and episode 1. I'm Chris Stafford, alongside my co-host Nancy Gillen. Well, metaphorically speaking, alongside, because, you know, we record this for a show from different countries, and we're back again for another season. I don't know how many episodes we've done now, Nancy, but here we are again, ready for a very big 2022 when it comes to women's sports. But first of all, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. And yeah, like you said, I think 2022 is going to be one of those years we look back on in the future and look at it as a really notable year for women's sport, because some of the events coming up are very exciting. And yeah, it's going to be great to cover it here on this podcast.
Yeah, well, we will, of course. We've got the Australian Open coming up. We've got the Beijing Winter Olympics happening next month, and a whole lot more summer sport to look forward to down the track there, which you're going to review, I think, a little bit later on in the program, Nancy, because we've got some other sport to get to. And since we're in the thick of winter, and we here in Virginia, we had probably about 5 or 6 inches of snow on Sunday night. It went from 61 degrees, can you believe it, on Sunday, by the middle of the day, to 30 down to 20. I mean, it was 19 even at dawn today. And in that period, we had a really good dumping of snow in the Washington, D.C. area, between 4 and 6 inches. So we're looking, like a winter wonderland right now. So very, very wintry, very skiing, or if only I had a pair of skis and we had big enough hills right here, but I'd have to get in the car and go somewhere to enjoy some skiing. But it's very, very pretty. Have you had any snow over there?
No snow. And it's actually been unnaturally warm. I think a bit of global warming has come into play this Christmas, because it's about 15 Celsius here over Christmas, which doesn't sound very warm, but I mean, for winter in England, it was actually okay. But saying that, it's been raining the whole time, so it's still been miserable. No sun or anything like that. It hasn't been sunbathing weather, but yeah, bit of a strange one, really.
I'll send you some pictures of how pretty this winter wonderland is, just to remind you what winter can look like, right? The pictures you see when you watch the skiing. Do you watch the skiing?
I don't really, to be honest, just because it's not really that accessible here. I think it's on something like Eurosport, which is quite hidden away. I mean, I catch clips of it on social media and keep up with the results and stuff, but not really able to kind of watch a whole event kind of, as it's happening.
Well, we'll bring you up to date with what has been happening on the World Cup scene in just a moment. But I want to begin with the result of bobsled, which happened since our last show when we wrapped things up just before the Christmas holiday. And that in bobsled, of course, the World Cup season continues. And the American Elana Meyers-Taylor, who you will have heard a number of times on this show, she partnered with the 29-year-old late Kwaza from Singapore, Illinois, Sycamore, Illinois, for the first time in a year. And they've celebrated the new year with gold in the 2 Women Bobsled World Cup in Sigulda. Their victory was Meyers-Taylor's first 2-woman bobsled World Cup medal this season and her first 2-woman bobsled World Cup win in 3 years. Her last gold medal performance was in February 2019 with Kwaza in Lake Placid, which is in upstate New York. Now, Lake, funnily enough, she once said that she loves anything outdoors as long as it's in the summer, which I think is quite ironic now. I guess she's made friends with winter. So that was a great result for them. And the next 2-woman bobsled race World Cup series, will be in Winterberg, Germany, just this coming weekend. And then the following weekend, they go to Switzerland to St. Moritz. Now, I promised you the World Cup skiing. We had a race today. But before I mention that, let's just reflect on Lienz last week. They had a giant slalom, and the French girl Tessa Worley won that. She beat Petra Vlhova, and in third place was Sarah Hector from Sweden, who's been on cracking form, except she wasn't today, unfortunately. But also in Lienz, Petra Vlhova then won the slalom, and Katharina Liensberger from Austria was second, with the Swiss girl, one of the Swiss Gizen girls, Michelle Gizen, finished up in third place. Now, I mentioned that Sarah Hector, who was third in the giant slalom, and she was not on such good form today. She finished actually 14th out of the 22 finishers in Zagreb. Now, Meyers Schifrin, who was back on the start list for that slalom today, which was a nighttime event, she was back after COVID isolation. Now, apparently, she didn't suffer too many symptoms while she was isolated, even though she tested positive. Well, she finished second behind the very informed Petra Vlhova. You heard there she had 2 seconds in second places in Lienz the week before. Well, she won today, and then the Austrian, that would be remarkable. The Austrian Katharina Liensberger completed the podium. As I said, Sarah Hector was 14th out of the 22 finishers. And this weekend, the women will be moving to Kranjska Gora in Slovakia for a giant slalom and a slalom race. So that's critical now in terms of point standings, Nancy, because you probably know that they have the standings for each of the disciplines, and then they have the overall standings. So Michaela Schifrin really needed those points today, but even though she's in the lead and she was still leading over Petra Vlhova, now going into this weekend's race with Sofia Godja in third place in the overall standings. Now, as usual, we'll have links to those stories, but also have links to all the standings if you are following World Cup skiing. If you just check out the show notes on our website at wissports.com, you'll find the links to the individual standings for all the disciplines and the overall standings. So that's what it looks like right now as we head to Kranjska Gora this weekend for a GS and a slalom. So stay tuned for news of that next week on the show. We'll bring you the results, how that played out, and where the standings currently are. With an update. We're going to move to tennis now, because a lot of talk about tennis, and Nancy, we seem not to have a break with tennis. It really is 12 months of the year, isn't it? You hardly get even a Christmas break.
Yeah, I mean, they say they have pre-season, but pre-season kind of really overlaps into the end of last season, unless you do something like what Ashley Barty did, where she withdrew from the WTA finals and decided to actually have a bit more of a break. But it is, if you play every tournament, it is pretty much, something like two weeks off, really. It is. And we're looking ahead, right, as we're getting close to the Australian Open, which starts from 12 days' time on the 17th. And I did read a preview that was posted on the WTA website, which I'll leave a link to, where Martina Navratilova and Pam Shriver preview 2022. And it's quite interesting. It gets their take. They don't always agree, never have always agreed, those two, on who they think is going to shine and come through on the rankings and Grand Slam wins this year, who we need to look out for. And not surprisingly, the current number 3 is Garbine Magarusa, the Spanish girl who had such a good end to the season last year. She's their top pick. They both think that we should be looking out for her. They don't both agree on who's going to take over the number 1 rankings, because right now, as we know, we've got Ash Bartley who's number 1. So that's an interesting article, and it is a preview of 2022, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes again, so you can read that yourselves. But interestingly, right now we've got Naomi Osaka, who's number 13 in the rankings, and Emma Raducanu, who's 19. Of course, anybody who follows tennis will remember that she won the US Open, and that was a complete shock to anybody who follows tennis. But interestingly, I think it was Pam Shriver, Nancy, who didn't think that Emma Raducanu would be in the top 20 by the end of this year. Yeah, I did. I did read that. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting one because I think when you look at the other tennis players that have done quite similar to Raducanu, like no one else has gone from qualification to win a Grand Slam, but there's a lot of parallels with people like Iga Swiatek, who won the French Open when she was 19. I know Bianca Andreescu she also won the US Open when she was a teenager. I know, obviously, she's been injured and kind of dropped down the rankings a bit, but Swiatek, you wouldn't say she's necessarily set the world on fire, but kind of just having consistent form, I think, on the WTA tour means I can't quite remember where she is, but I'm pretty sure she's in the top 10. I think she's number 9, maybe. You don't have to be kind of consistently winning Grand Slams. I mean, I don't think Raducanu is going to win another Grand Slam. I'd be surprised if she won another Grand Slam this year. But I think she's shown that she's definitely got the potential to be winning kind of smaller WTA events and kind of racking up that consistent form that would keep her in the top 20. So I think I was quite surprised by that comment. It suggested like she thought Raducanu might be a bit of a flash in the pan, but I'm not.
I think, I'm not so sure she meant that, rather than she felt that she needed another year to mature and have a lot more competitions under her belt before she comes back to shine again. And she maybe just needs this year as a building year and just to get as many competitions, under her belt as possible to really consolidate, because she's had so many changes to, her whole team, a regime, a coach, and of course the sponsorships, the business deals that she's been doing since she won the US Open. There's so many other pieces to her. I think what they're saying now is she really needs to knuckle down and get a good year under her belt, and then she'll come back and it won't be this year, it will be next year, where we'll really be able to see more consistency in her form. That's what I took from that.
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, I think I do agree with that. But I personally, I still think she'll be in and around the top 20. Are
we going to have a little bet then as to whether she finishes in the top 20 at the end of this year or not?
Yeah, I'm quite confident she will. I'm very happy to back her finishing in the top 20.
I think we're both going to disagree with Pam Shriver. I think it was Pam that said she wouldn't finish in the top 20. So I'm with you. I'm on Team Raducanu for that. I think she will, but she may creep out. She may just drop below the 20 and finish in the top 30, something like that.
Yeah,
but I don't think she's going to disappear from view.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. I think as well she's got Tobin Belts, her coach now. Like you said, she does need time to bed in with him, but I think having a coach of that caliber, because he helped Kerber. Well, he did work well with Kerber, and he's got that Grand Slam experience and so on, which I think will really help her this year. Obviously, that might go the other way, and maybe they won't work well together. But I think just having a coach of that caliber means she'll be in definitely the top 30, and I think the top 20.
Yeah, just to remind everybody, as I said, Ash Barty is number 1 right now as we go into the Australian Open. And number 2 is Aranya Sabalenka from Belarus. And then 3rd is Garbine Magarusa. So we'll watch that in a couple of weeks now. We'll be glued to that. Do you get much coverage of the Australian Open because of the time difference, Nancy?
Yeah, we do. I think sometimes I really... Oh, no, maybe that was the US Open. I think that it depends on the timing of the matches. You can normally catch matches in the morning. I know Ashley Barty's playing Coco Gauff tomorrow morning here at 8:30 in the morning. So that it is possible. But obviously you can't, it's not, feasible to watch the whole tournament.
No, it's a tough one with the kind of time difference. Now, you wrote and published today, as we record this on Tuesday, January the 4th, you actually wrote a piece about Osaka. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so she played her first game since September. Again, for me, very early this morning, at about 1 a.m. And yeah, she spoke to reporters afterwards to give kind of some insight, I suppose, into her time, her 4 months away from the tennis court, and why she had decided to come back when she did. She actually said that she wasn't really expecting to come back from the Australian Open. She said that she thought she wasn't going to play for the most of this year, so actually missed the majority of 2022. But then she said that essentially the time away that she had out, she was kind of talking to family and friends and let a lot of the pressure go, and then kind of remembered why she was playing tennis in the first place, and that was for the love of the sport, really. Rather than kind of the pressures of winning and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it does sound like she's come back from this break. She seems a lot more kind of happy and relaxed. She said, I don't quite know the tone with which this was said because I didn't hear it. I've only seen it written down. But she said she has a goal in the press room to not cry again, which I imagine was a bit of a joke. But that, she was getting quite emotional in the press room. And obviously at the French Open didn't want to do her media duties, but she now seems a lot kind of more. But she says as well that every time she steps on court, she wants to have fun. I can walk off the courts knowing that even if I lost, I tried as hard as I could. So it seems like she's kind of reset being able to have a recalibration of her mindset. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, she's the defending champion of the Australian Open, so she's the stakes are quite high, and it would be interesting to see whether she is actually able to go far in the tournament with this new kind of mindset. But yeah, she got her return off to tennis, off to a good start. She beat Elise Cornet of France 6-4, 3-6, 6-3 in a tournament called the Melbourne Somerset, which is basically just a preparation tournament for the Australian Open. So yeah, it's great to see her back. Personally, she's one of my favourite tennis players, so I'm very happy to see her back, and hopefully she can get a good run and going in 12 days.
For sure. I think that's a good way to describe it, a recalibration of her mindset, really just sort of toned it down again, just, stood back, really, had a longer view of her career and her love of the sport. So it will be interesting that, whether she can come all the way through in the Australian Open to defend her title. As you say, the stakes are high there because she's got some super tough competition with Ash Barty. And of course, the home crowd will be supporting her. So, yeah, we'll have some interesting conversations probably about that in the coming weeks. I want to move on now. We're going to actually look back at the Olympic Games, the Tokyo Olympic Games, with this story about the distance runner Sifan Hassan. And this is something that you found on the BBC Sports pages. It's a really disturbing story in a way, what she endured when she completed that 1,500-metre race.
Yeah, so this was from an interview she did on the BBC World Service, where she kind of discussed at the Olympics where she had she gave herself the very ambitious task of competing in the 1,500 metres, the 5,000 metres and the 10,000 metres, which hardly anyone does. I think most athletes pick either one distance or two distance because obviously if they can focus on one or two, then that really increases their chances of winning a gold medal. But she really wanted to win all three. And she did really well. She got gold in two of the distances, the 1,500 and the 10,000. Sorry, the 5,000 metres and the 10,000 she got gold in, and the 1,500 metres she got bronze to finish third. And she's just talked about that final race where she got the gold medal in the 10,000 metres, and she was saying she was fueled in that race by finishing third only the night before, and she said because of that disappointment of getting that bronze medal, she just decided that she was gonna fully go for it, like 100% go for it. And yeah, she kind of said, well, I'll just read what she said. She said, honestly, at that moment, that was her crossing the line. I was just so happy to survive. I was really in pain. I was suffering so much. I was sweating very, very, very hard. All my face was burning. My hand was burning. All my body was burning. And she said that she thought she was going to pass out, and she didn't mind about the gold medal at that point. She just wanted to be alive and healthy. So I think it just shows how much she did put into it, and how much she was almost willing to go to get that gold medal. There's a few other interesting things in this interview that I thought she said, especially where she kind of explained why she went for that treble when no one else really does it. And she said she just wanted to see if she could. It was like a curiosity almost, like, was it possible? So I just found it interesting that her mindset, as opposed to other athletes who would be like, what is the best chance of me getting gold? Okay, I'll do that. She was more thinking, what is the how far can I go? How far can a human being go? So it was almost, she was using the Olympics as a bit of an experiment, which I thought quite interesting. And then as well, she was saying that she thinks a lot of other athletes will now do the same because they know it is possible to do. And that people just hadn't done it before because they didn't think it was possible, but she's proven that you can compete in all three of those distances and medal in all three of those distances. So yeah, I really recommend reading the interview because it's very interesting.
It is, and I did read that not since the days of sepia newsreels had an athlete taken on such a monster schedule there with the 1,500 metres, the 5,000 metres and the 10,000 metres, and that being with the longest distance coming last of all those three. I mean, she built up to it, which it's just a horrendous schedule, isn't it? Over 8-day period, was it? That's extraordinary. She's only 29. I mean, I say only 29 because there's still a lot of running left in her. And can you see her getting to Paris and trying this again, knowing how to do it? Yeah,
I think so. I think especially because Paris is only 2.5 years away now, so that's definitely feasible. I think she's also said that she wants to do it at a World Champs, and we've got the World Athletics Championships this year in August. In
Oregon, right?
Yeah. So I think she'd do it there as well.
Okay. All right. That's a great story. But awful to see how much she actually suffered from that, as you described there. I mean, really did take its toll on her. But yeah, hopefully, like any athlete, they learn what works and what doesn't work, and she'll be able to take away a lot from that experience and build it up to a better performance, which is not so depleting of her resources in future. And as you say, it will be interesting to see if other athletes take this on as well. Women keep pushing the boundaries, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and I think it's. She's had a really incredible year, and I think we'll see a lot of people emulating what she's done this year.
All right. Well, also staying with Tokyo and a reaction to Tokyo, some after news from the Tokyo Olympics, I should say, when we're going to talk about skateboarding now, because that made its debut in Tokyo, didn't it?
It did, yeah. And the competitors in the women's park skateboarding final have been awarded with a Fair Play Award, which it's given out by the International Fair Play Committee, which is made up of members of the IOC, Athletes Commission, and just various people in the Olympic movement. And they've been giving out this award since Beijing 2008. So the finalists, there were about 5 or 6 finalists in this that won this award, including Britain's Sky Brown, who got the bronze medal in the award, and also the gold and silver medalists Sakura Yozozumi and Kokona Hiraki, both of Japan. And they won the award because, I don't know if you saw this at the time, but one of the medal favourites, Mizogo Okamoto, I think she was on track to get a medal, and in her final run she crashed. But you'd imagine in that situation, all the competitors would probably be secretly really happy. But they actually, it was in a very kind of heartwarming moment, they actually all went and hugged her and comforted her. And then some of them lifted her Okamoto on their shoulders as well. So
that was kind of awesome. Yeah. That was a really good sportsmanship, because she was the reigning world champion, wasn't she, Okamoto?
Yeah. And I think she was favourite to win gold, and also she finished fourth. So obviously, that if she hadn't had that crash, she would have 100% been on the medal podium. So I think as well, what's important to note is just the age of the majority of these competitors. Okamoto's 15, I think she is. Yes. And there were 5 teenagers in the final. Of course, Sky Brown is like only 13 years old. So I think just almost the maturity that moment showed from these really, really young athletes, like some of the youngest athletes in the games, is incredible. And yeah, it's a very nice touch, I think, and just a very nice story.
Yeah, I love that. As you say, they're so young. Well, Paris, here they come, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if it is. I think that the age range in skateboarding is very. I know there was kind of a 42-year-old competing as well, so that suggests that they've got a lot more Olympic Games to compete in, so we should be seeing them again soon. Yeah,
for sure. Well, thank you for that, Nancy. We always love good sportsmanship awards here on the show. Any good sportsmanship story, we'll be sharing that with you. Now, talk about an achievement. This is something I did know that she was doing, but but you've I think you covered this story on Give Me Sport Women, and that is it's not so much a sport, but she's an Amazon. She really belongs on our Amazon show for women who've made extraordinary achievements in expeditions. So tell us a little bit about that. This she's in the military, isn't she? This woman, Preet Chandi.
Yeah, so she's a British Army officer. So she's a Sikh British Army officer as well. And she this week became the first woman of colour to complete a solo expedition to the South Pole. So it took, I think it was something like 40 days in total, and it was a 700-mile trek across Antarctica, completely by herself as well. Wow. So she had audiobooks, voice notes from friends, and she kept kind of like an audio diary as well. And yeah, she's managed to complete it now. She said she's trained for more than 2 years to get to that moment, and also spent most of her money, including her life savings, to fund the training and then the eventual journey. So a really historic moment there. And weirdly, the first thing I thought when I read this story was that obviously it's over the festive period as well, and it's obviously a very lonely task, but I think being in the middle of Antarctica on Christmas Day must have been a very probably strange, probably also a bit amazing as well experience. So yeah, incredible feat from her. And I'm interested if she's going to kind of go for more big kind of expeditions like this, but maybe if you get her on that show, you'll be able to find out.
Well, we talk about isolation in terms of the COVID pandemic, don't we? And having to be isolated or quarantined for a limited period of time, relatively. And this woman has really showed what isolation truly means, doing this alone in as bleak a landscape as the Antarctic is, the South Pole, Antarctica. It really is extraordinary what she's achieved. So congratulations to her. You'd have to have incredible willpower, Nancy, to stay focused on such a bleak terrain. It's not as if you have, you look at that horizon or that's different from the next horizon and the landscapes. It actually could mess with your head, couldn't it? Just looking at that bleak, the very same horizon, the very same skyline, snow and more snow and hopefully a blue sky, but it's a very, very monotonous trek, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a massive mental challenge. Like obviously physically it'd be very difficult as well, but the mental side of it, like you said, if you're feeling not very motivated, or you kind of, maybe wanted to give up, you don't have anyone around you to tell you not to. It's just completely down to your own mental fortitude, really. So yeah, it's a really, really incredible achievement.
Yeah, congratulations to her. We'll see if we can reach out to her and have her share her story. Is she on her way home, presumably? I mean, she just completed it this week, didn't she?
I think it was yesterday, yeah. So, to be honest, I don't know how they get home. Do they have to walk all the way back? I presume if someone comes out in a helicopter or something like that. Hopefully she doesn't have to walk all the way back.
Yeah, right. You'd hope not. You'd hope she'd have saved some of her savings of this trip for that ride home. Most definitely. All right. Well, thanks for that, Nancy. And we're going to wrap up this week with a preview. Your thoughts on 2022, because there's, as you mentioned earlier in the show, there's some terrific competitions coming up around the world. Now, rugby league is not something that's played as universally as some of the other sports. So let's start with Rugby World Cup. No, Euro 20. Which one do you want to start with first? Which comes first?
There's so many to choose from.
Really, yeah.
I'm happy. Well, we can go in chronological order, maybe, kind of as the calendar falls, which would actually start us off with cricket and the Women's Ashes. Yeah. So we go with that. So the Women's Ashes start on January the 27th. It's a multi-format series, so it's a one-off test on the 27th, and then there will be 3 2020 competitions and 3 one-day internationals as well, going into February. I'm not the biggest follower of cricket, but I'm very aware that England in the men's Ashes have completely crumbled. So I'm hoping that this competition will be a lot more competitive and maybe attract some disgruntled men's cricket fans. I think Australia are definitely the clear favourites. They've been in very good form. They are the T20 champions. They had a world record 26 match winning run in one-day internationals. It only ended in September. But England are the reigning World Cup champions. Although the last World Cup was in 2017, so that is now quite a while ago. I'm not sure if, obviously it's not quite the same team. But yeah, I think that's going to be a very competitive event. And then will be really quickly followed by the Women's Cricket World Cup as well, which is March the 4th to April the 3rd. So there's only 13 days in between the conclusion of the Ashes and the Women's Cricket World Cup. So England and Australia are going to have to hop across to New Zealand for that tournament, which features 8 teams. As I said before, England are the defending champions for that World Cup. So the pressure's probably on them, but I imagine, again, Australia are probably the favourites to win that. So if you're a cricket fan, there's also the 100 in the summer as well. And then also the T20 competition at the Birmingham Commonwealth Games. So women's cricket this year, you're in for a treat if you're a cricket fan.
You totally are. And I think a lot will depend, when it comes to the T20s, how England, if you support England or Australia, how they come off that Ashes series too, because that will buoy them up with confidence going to Australia for the T20. Don't you think? I mean, that always makes a big difference to a team. Knowing the team, knowing the players, knowing that what they have to do, knowing the strengths and weaknesses, knowing what the current form is of their opposition, and so they'll have that little bit of an edge. But as you say, it's going to be a bumpy year for women's cricket. As a cricket fan, really looking forward to it. Only wish we had better coverage over here in the States, Nancy.
Yeah, I think that is probably, the coverage is really great here, but yeah, if I could lend you a login to anything, let me know and I'll try and get you some access.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's all in line of duty, right? Yeah,
definitely. And then, so in the summer as well, just before the Commonwealth Games start, we've got Euro 2022, which is probably, for me as a football fan, the event I'm most excited for. That especially as well because it's being hosted in England. So I'll have a chance to hopefully go to as many games as I possibly can. So that's going to be held from July the 6th to the 31st. There's 16 key teams competing in that tournament. England would probably say among the favourites to win, but you've got defending champions, the Netherlands, Sweden, Spain. Obviously, Spain have got a lot of Barcelona. The Barcelona domestic team are essentially the Spain national team, and we all know what Barcelona have been doing recently, just winning everything.
Oh, I won't rub it in.
Yeah, I think Spain are real contenders to win that. Obviously, the kind of normal heavyweights, Germany and France as well. And then, obviously you've got good players in like Norway, Denmark, Belgium, Italy, Austria. So it's going to be a really, really great tournament. Hopefully as well, just very well organised and, attract a lot of TV audiences and people coming along to the stadiums, and should be a massive, massive boost for women's football in England and hopefully across Europe as well. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one.
And we can guarantee our listeners that we will have great coverage here of that competition, thanks to our friend here, Nancy Gillen, who will be following it very, very closely. You'll probably get to some of the games, I'd imagine, Nancy, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm hoping to go to as many as possible, whether that's as a fan or working as a journalist. That basically, like, I'm doing no socialising whatsoever that month. It's all going to be the Euros.
All right, okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. Stay tuned here for coverage of the Euros, and that's coming up this summer. And then in the fall, or the autumn, I should say, will be the Rugby World Cup from October 8th to November 12th, Nancy. And we know the fever that's been growing for Rugby World Cups in recent years. It's been tremendous, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's heading. So it's in New Zealand again. New Zealand and Australia are hosting quite a lot of events in this year and next year. And yeah, I think, like you said, the passion and excitement for Rugby World Cups are definitely growing. And I think obviously New Zealand is a real powerhouse in rugby and women's rugby. So hopefully they should organise a really, really good tournament. I think strangely, even though they're the reigning world champs, I don't think they're going to be favourites. I think that's going to be England, just because of England's form at the moment.
Right.
They've beaten New Zealand twice, in the past couple of months. Won 18 test matches in a row. They won the Women's Six Nations this year, last year even, for the third consecutive time. And I think especially we were both very shocked, I think, at those results against New Zealand, because it wasn't even a close match. They heavily defeated New Zealand. So they're going to be absolutely full of confidence for that. Yeah,
totally. Well, we will look forward to that very much so. Even with the time difference, we'll overcome that and bring you the results as that happens. But that's a long way off this fall. There's a lot more to get to before we reach that World Cup. But after that, after the Rugby Union World Cup, comes the Rugby League World Cup, which is not played by as many nations, though, is it, Nancy?
Yeah, it's less popular. I mean, I know the US are competing at the Rugby World Cup, but they're not at the Rugby League World Cup. It's a very popular sport in the north of England, and the tournament itself is being hosted in the north of England. It's interesting as well because it's the men's, women's, and wheelchair. So they have all three tournaments kind of running alongside of each other and complementing each other, I think, when possible. So I think the final is going to be like a big double header at Old Trafford in Manchester. So, you don't really get that from any sports where they've got all of the tournaments happening at the same time, kind of like working alongside each other. So it'd be interesting to see how that works out. There's 8 women's teams competing in that one. Australia are probably the favourites in that one. They are completely dominant in women's rugby league. They won their 11th world title in 2017. They beat England to win, and it was their 14th consecutive World Cup final. I will guarantee you that Australia will be in this final.
Yeah, but the target will be on their back, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But obviously England have got home advantage, and I'm hoping to try and get to some of those games as well. And like I said, rugby league is very popular in the north of England. And yeah, just having it, I think, in an area where the sport is so popular, should encourage people to come out and watch. So maybe England will be boosted by having those big crowds there.
Yes, for sure. Well, aside from those, we've got a Commonwealth Games to look forward to in England as well.
Yep. Yeah, so that's July 28th to August 8th. So you notice there is starting to be a bit of overlap here.
Yes.
And then just before that as well is also the World Athletics Championships from July the 15th to the 24th. So it's if you're an athlete looking at this year, you're thinking, well, from any sport, you're thinking, wow, this is busy.
Yeah.
So it's I'm very excited.
We will not be short of things to talk about in 2022 when it comes to women's sports, Nancy.
No, definitely not. It's going to be really, really good.
A lot to look forward to, and of course you'll, as you said, be following it. You'll be attending that, as many of those competitions in England. We both wish we were going down to Australia and New Zealand, of course, to cover the cricket and the rugby union. But we'll be recording it and bringing you the highlights here on the news desk every week, right through the year. Nancy, we're going to have a busy year.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to covering everything on this podcast.
Yes, we will indeed. And you'll also be covering it on your website, givemesportwomen.com. Remind everybody how they can follow you on social media.
Yep. So, well, my personal Twitter handle is Nancy_Gillen. And I'm also on Instagram at Nancy_Gillen_sport. And then if you want to keep updated with Give Me Sport Women as well, you can find us at Give Me Sport W.
All right, terrific. And we are, of course, at wisports.com and at Wisp Sports on social media channels. So, leave us a comment or a question or a suggestion for any guests that you'd like to hear on this or any of our shows. We always love to hear from you. And if you have a moment, do leave us a rating and a review on your podcast app, whether that be Apple Podcasts or Google Play. That, of course, always helps other people find the show if you leave us a rating and a review. And let us know what you think. We're always open to suggestions. And I hope you like the name change, because we really are the news desk, aren't we, Nancy?
Yeah, we definitely are. We've always everything covered.
We certainly do. All right. What are you busy with this week then, before we come back in a week's time?
I think just build up to the Australian Open.
Right.
Got a few of those kind of little tournaments happening beforehand. And then the Women's Super League as well was back this weekend after a bit of a winter break as well. So getting back into the football. And yeah, it was a bit of a quiet month in December, but feeling rested because of that. I'm ready to go again. Ready to rock and roll. And of course, following your favourite team, Arsenal, who really didn't end the year very strong as we expected. You started off so strong, but then you got some injuries and then a couple of defeats that must have been hard for them to take. So hopefully they bounce back. They've had a good rest and review, and they'll come out bouncing. When's their first game, Nancy? So it's Sunday. They're playing Birmingham, who are bottom of the table, haven't won a game yet. So I think you have to be expecting that Arsenal are going to win that one. But you never know. But I'm expecting a victory there for sure. You are hoping for one, I'm sure. Now, we did see, meanwhile, because one of the players we've been following, of course, the US national team player, Tobin Heath, who plays for Arsenal, she got injured, didn't she, Nancy? And she was sidelined for quite a bit, but I did see a lovely picture of her and Kristen Press enjoying some snow sports over the holidays. So hopefully that means she'll be coming back to form. Is there any news on being on the training ground yet? Not that I'm aware of, but I'm sure in the coming days when they announce the team news for the Birmingham game, there will definitely be an update on her. So yeah, I'll let you know if there is. But yeah, I really hope that she is either back to fitness or nearly there, because it would be nice to see her play in an Arsenal shirt soon, because we've been deprived of it for quite some time now. You have. All right. Well, we'll bring you up to date next week, and good luck with that game. Will you be going? No, I won't. I won't be going. It's in Birmingham. Are you not allowed out of North London yet? Seriously, are the COVID restrictions? Oh no, I could go if I wanted to. Yeah. Okay. But no, I'm not. I don't have plans to go at the moment. No.
Will it be on TV?
Yeah, it will be. It'll be either BBC, Sky Sports, or there's a thing called the FA Player, which is just a website run by the FA, which plays any match which isn't on TV. So it's always possible to watch the matches, yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, good luck, Nancy. We'll be back next week with another episode of the News Desk. Until then, Nancy, take care. Enjoy the winter sports. And, keep us posted, won't you? Right back here on the News Desk next week.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody, and a very happy new year.